So my latest novel, Female Fantasy, which was published about a month and a half ago, and it was the inaugural title from Cosmo Reads, which is a new hybrid imprint that joins forces between Sourcebooks and Hearst magazines, which more specifically Cosmopolitan magazine. And it's a really exciting marriage of properties because you've got a sex and relationships tentpole prestige property that's been prioritizing storytelling for young women, especially sex positive, like romance forward storytelling, and Sourcebooks, which is like the largest independent bookseller, book publisher that was founded by a woman. And it's just it's an exciting time to be in publishing. And I'm very honored to be helming and introducing this imprint to the world. But my novel, Female Fantasy, which I have right here, follows Junie, who is our heroine. And Junie's got a problem, which is that she keeps dumping the disappointing men that she dates because they don't hold a candle to her favorite book boyfriend, who just happens to be the MMC of a romantasy series about sexy mermaids. Reich, who is the hero in question, is sort of this like archetype of tall, dark, and handsome, incredibly mysterious, very down bad in love with Mariah, his protagonist, and will do anything to both protect her, but also respects her. And Junie found this series when she was very much sort of like struggling with her own sense of self and identity and her belief in love and her faith in relationships. And she really credits the series with saving her and giving her a sense of purpose and, more importantly, hope. So when Junie finds out that this character, Reich, was actually based on a real man that the author knows in real life, she decides to embark on an epic quest to meet him and find out if soulmates really do exist. But of course, like, all great heroes' journeys, things start to go wrong pretty much off the bat. And as she's met with trials and tribulations, she uses skills that she's learned from reading romance to fight her way towards happily ever after. So this book, which, oh my gosh, I've never had more fun writing in my entire life, is 50% campy mermaid romantasy parody, 50% like very tongue-in-cheek satirical. I like to call it a contemporary rom-com, but 100% a full, wholehearted love letter to the romance genre, its readers, and also to fandom, and liking what you like unapologetically and never being made to feel ashamed or guilty for it. This book is in many ways two books in one. It's two different stories in conversation with each other. So interspersed throughout Junie's story, we've got bits and pieces of the romantasy series that she's obsessed with, and the events of the romantasy in a lot of ways foreshadow the conversations, decisions, actions taken in the contemporary. And I did a ton of reading and rereading for both stories because the romantasy, I think like it's going to be very enthralling and fun and silly for anyone who hasn't read a lot of contemporary romantasy. However, if you are familiar with the subgenre, you're going to get even more out of it because there are so many like winks and nods to popular tropes and character archetypes and sort of Easter eggs. So I read all the blockbuster series from the last 5 to 10 years. Your Sarah J. Maas's. When I started working on this, only Fourth Wing was out, but Fourth Wing from Rebecca Yaros. But then also Jennifer Armentrout's from Blood and Ash series, Carissa Broadbent's Daughter of No Worlds, and the Crowns of Nyaxia series. So all of these like big blockbuster romantasy series that are really credited with getting people back into reading, perhaps members of fandoms like Harry Potter and Twilight and Hunger Games, who found themselves sort of like cast out of publishing for a little bit because they didn't have something to sink their teeth into, and are now like reading faster and more books throughout the year because they've fallen in love with these fictional worlds. Um, and then for the contemporary romance, I already read a ton of romance for fun. I'm a huge, huge romance reader. And when I say huge romance reader, I mean, I fall under the entirety of that umbrella. So I've read everything I can get my hands on. And I talk a little bit about this in my author's note. So I read like fluffy rom-coms. I read like dark romantic erotica. I read cowboy romance, hockey romance. I read historical romance. I read paranormal romance. I'm all across the map. But because there is so much meta commentary about the importance of genre in the contemporary, I wanted to maximize the amount of tropes that appeared on the road trip from hell. So, brothers, best friend, forced proximity, road trip, kidnapping, mafia romance, one bed trope. There's a lot of hilarious stuff in here, and we have our characters almost like breaking the fourth wall to say, how could this possibly be happening? I thought I was dealing with XYZ, but I was actually in a different story altogether. And to do that, I really read all of my favorites of the big and most popular romance authors working today. So, of course, you've got like your Emily Henrys and Ali Hazelwoods, but also some of my personal favorites like Kennedy Ryan and Tia Williams and Susan Lee. And it was just the only word that comes to mind is joyful. I had such a joyful experience writing both of these two-in-one stories. And I really think that comes across on the page when you read it. You can tell I just had so much fun and that I poured so much love into every sentence. I honestly kind of cross-referenced a lot of the character archetypes, the plot points, and the tropes and sort of recognizable features into like cross categories. Like when I noticed something popping up many times, or if there was a inside joke that was more like for the fans, like a canonical bit, I would try to subvert that or have it come up in the series. So, like a couple examples, something like the inner circle in the Akatar books is referred to as the IC. In my sort of homage to romantasy, I have the upper shoal, which is like they call themselves the US. And that's just sort of like a wink to Akatar readers, but also with like a more nautical aquatic twist. And of course, that group is made up with different kinds of characters, but they all work together to serve the same purpose, which is to and support our two romantic heroes on their journey, and also act as like foils um, and also like story devices to move them further towards their goal. And then from Flood and Ash, there's a like inside joke with the fandom where people like to tease the FMC for always asking so many questions in order to get exposition on page. In my romantasy, the tagline is so many questions. So it's just like little things like that that I found to be like very entertaining and almost inside jokes with myself, that I thought these are subtle enough that if you haven't read romantasy, you won't feel like confused, but they're also like in the weeds of the subgenre enough that people who recognize them will think, oh, she's not laughing at us, she's laughing with us. She's read these books many times, and she's picked up on the intricacies of what we find to be entertaining and silly and just fun. So that was honestly like I almost felt like it was similar to the process of being beta read, in that when so many people beta read your work, you don't take all of their advice into consideration. But if there's a piece of advice that you get 4, 5, 6 times, it overlaps, it starts to become consistent, you realize this is actually something I should consider working into my draft. and that's how I felt. And then in order to make it feel original and fresh, I did a lot of independent research into mermaids and siren lore. And that was just so much fun for me because I have been a huge fan of mermaids and like mermaid fiction, mermaids in pop culture since I was a girl. And I always joke that we had like the golden age of mermaids in the zeitgeist, and then they started to decline in favor of werewolves and vampires and like Twilight Mania and the Vampire Diaries. And I on tour often would say, this is all propaganda to bring the mermaids like back into the fold. Like we're bringing mermaids back into culture and trying to make it more mermaid mania. So anyway, that was just it was a way for me to make my series more original, but also an excuse to get paid for 6 months to read siren lore and revisit some of my favorite like pop cultural mermaid moments.